Something just stung. Maybe it was a sentence, maybe a look, maybe the particular way someone said, fine. And here's what happened next. Nothing. You didn't yell, you didn't cry, you didn't fire back the perfect comeback you'd think of at 2 in the morning. You just went quiet. The words were right there, lined up behind your teeth. Then some door in you swung shut, and they couldn't get out. On the outside, you looked calm, maybe even cold. The other person leaned in and asked, "What's wrong?" All you could manage was a small, flat nothing. But inside it was loud, a whole storm nobody else could see. And later, alone, you replayed it and thought, why do I do that? Why is it that the moment I'm actually hurt, I shut the door instead of opening my mouth? If you've lived that quiet, the kind everyone around you misreads, then you, my friend, are today's case. Let's open the file. Here's the label the world hands you for this. They call it the silent treatment, stonewalling, cold, distant, immature, shutting people out. The person across from you feels the quiet and decides it's a punishment, that you're withholding on purpose, making them wait, making them pay for whatever just happened. And after enough people tell you that's what you're doing, part of you starts to believe it. You start to think there's something a little broken in how you handle being hurt. So let me say this clearly, because it's the whole case. Going quiet when you're hurt is almost never a punishment. This isn't a glitch in you. It's code that's been running for a very long reason. The silent treatment is a weapon. What you're doing is a shelter. From the outside, they can look identical, a closed mouth, a quiet room. Underneath, they're opposite events. One is aimed at someone, the other is protecting someone, and that someone is you. So stick with me. Once you see what's actually happening in those quiet moments, you'll never read your own silence the same way again. I'm Cody, and today we're decoding why you go quiet when you're hurt. Not the surface advice, just communicate better, use your words. You've heard it 100 times, and it doesn't touch the real mechanism. We're going underneath, to the actual wiring. What happens in your body and in your history the instant a hurt lands, and why silence is the very first move your system reaches for. A few clues to follow, then a verdict. Let's investigate. Start with the thing nobody can see from the outside, the flood. When something hurts you, really hurts, your body doesn't wait for permission. In a second or two, your heart rate climbs, stress chemistry pours in, and your whole system flips into threat mode. Researchers who study couples have a name for this. They call it flooding. And when you're flooded, something specific happens. The calm, verbal, reasoning part of your brain gets turned down, quietly demoted. The alarm system takes the wheel. And here's the cruel twist. Your words lean on that same part. Finding the right sentence, explaining what you feel, it all runs through the same calm front of your brain that just got demoted. So in that moment, this isn't you coldly choosing silence. The wiring for speech has, for a moment, gone offline with everything else. It's like trying to type a careful, honest message while a fire alarm screams in the same room. The words won't come because everything you've got just got yanked toward the alarm. Picture the version you know best. You're mid-argument and it tips over some edge. The other person is still talking, still waiting, getting more frustrated by your silence. And the more they push for words, the more flooded you get. The louder the alarm, the further your words retreat. They read the quiet as you checking out. Really, you're underwater, and every "just say something" pushes you deeper. This is why "tell me how you feel" can land like an impossible request. You can't read the map while the whole building feels like it's on fire. The quiet isn't the absence of feeling. It's the sound of a system so full it can't get a single word through the door. Now follow the quiet back further. Much further than you. Long before there were words, animals had one reliable move when they were wounded. Go still. Go quiet. Pull in. A creature that's hurt and makes noise draws attention. A creature that goes silent and small disappears. And disappearing when you're hurt is how you stay alive. Scientists who study stress call this a kind of conservation. The body pulls its energy inward, powers down everything outward, hunkers down to protect itself until the danger passes. You inherited that. It's old code, far older than your language, sitting underneath all your modern reasoning. So when a hurt lands, part of you doesn't reach for a conversation. It reaches for a cave. It pulls you inward. It drops your voice to nothing. It makes you want to be small and unseen until the ache settles. That's not coldness. It's a body running its oldest safety routine, the same one that kept your ancestors alive back when being loud meant being in danger. It's why after a fight you don't want to hash it out. You want to go to another room, close the door, and sit in the quiet for a while. You're not being difficult. The cave is just calling you in to heal.
Here's the part that makes it personal. Some of us go quiet far more than others, and usually that's not random. It's learned. Think back. Somewhere at some point, you opened your mouth when you were hurt, and it didn't go well. Maybe you spoke up and got dismissed. Maybe your tears got used against you. Maybe the house you grew up in turned big feelings into something louder, scarier, less safe. So your system did what every smart system does. It ran the results and updated the strategy. Speaking up when hurt, danger. Going quiet, safer. Psychologists who study how we bond call this a deactivating strategy. When reaching out has burned you before, you learn to turn the reaching out down and carry the pain alone. It's a lock some part of you installed on purpose a long time ago to protect a younger you who genuinely needed protecting. The trouble is, the lock doesn't know the year changed. It still snaps shut now, with safe people, in safe rooms, because nobody ever told it the danger passed. So when you go quiet with someone who actually loves you, you're not rejecting them. You're a kid who learned the hard way that silence was the safest place to keep a wound.
And here's the clue that clears your name completely. Remember that label, the silent treatment. Here's how you tell the difference, because the difference is everything. The silent treatment has a target. It's quiet, aimed at someone, to make them anxious, to make them chase, to make them pay. It points outward. What you do points inward. You're not trying to make anyone suffer. Most of the time, you go quiet because you're scared of what might come out if you don't. Because under that flood, there are sharp things. The cruel sentence, the exaggeration you don't really mean, the words that can never be unsaid. And some protective part of you knows that, so it pulls the brake. It picks the silence over the damage. That pause, the one everyone misreads as you not caring, is often the exact moment you care most. You're holding the line so you don't hurt them back, so you don't burn the whole thing down in 10 flooded seconds. It's not the absence of love. It's love with a hand over its own mouth, waiting until it's safe to speak. Is it a perfect strategy? No. Left alone too long, the quiet can wound the people on the other side of the door. We'll come back to that. But cold, calculated, cruel, that's the one thing it almost never is.
So here's the verdict on your quiet. It was never proof that something's wrong with you. It's a stack of protections, layered over years, a flooded system, an ancient instinct, a lesson learned too young, a brake you pull so you don't do harm. Every one of them is trying to keep something safe. You don't have to be ashamed of the silence, but you can learn to leave it a note. Because here's the one real thing the quiet cost you. The people who love you can't see the storm. They only see the closed door, and they fill the silence with their own worst guess. So you don't have to force the words out mid-flood. You just have to hand them a key. A few words decided ahead of time can change everything. Something as simple as, "I'm hurt and I need a minute." That's not breaking the silence. It's labeling it. It tells them the door isn't a wall. It's just closed for a moment, and you're still in there. You were never cold. You're a person who feels things so completely that your system reaches for shelter before it reaches for speech. That's not a flaw waiting to be fixed. It's deep protective wiring. And now that you can finally see it running, you get to decide what it does next.
So let me leave you with a question for the comments. When you go quiet, what's the one thing you wish the other person understood about what's happening in there? Write it down. Someone who loves a quiet person is going to need to read it. And if this one found you, if you saw yourself in that closed door, There are more quiet patterns just like it, still waiting to be decoded. Subscribe and we'll crack the next case together. Case closed for now. I'm Cody.